Good evening, YouTubers and cinephiles. Welcome back to another edition of Nerd with Me. I'm John Ricky. Today's review is a special kind of review. It's actually part one of two reviews that are going to be connected in some way, shape, or form. And I will inform you what that is on the next video that is connected to this one. You know what? Now that I think about it, this just occurred to me. You know what? You really look at how the 80s movies and 90s movies are really going. You know what was a big genre in that time period? Thrillers. Mystery thrillers. There's so many of them. And all of them were blockbusters. Almost all of them were blockbusters. And this film was one of the bigger ones of that time period. It's called Ransom. Starring Mel Gibson, Rene Russo, Delroy Lindo, Gary Sinise, and directed by Ron Howard. At this time, Mel Gibson was one of the biggest stars in the world, as well as an Oscar-winning director with Braveheart that came out a year earlier. He had just won. On top of that, this film is directed by his rival director in the Best Director race, Ron Howard, who was just nominated for Apollo 13 that same year. Gary Sinise was hot off his nomination for Forrest Gump as Lieutenant Dan, and another great turn with Ron Howard. This is his second time with Ron Howard within as many years, because he was in Apollo 13 as well. On top of that, re-teaming of Rene Russo and Delroy Lindo, who were both in Get Shorty a year before. Ransom was released in 1996. And the story goes, a millionaire son is kidnapped. The millionaire complies with FBI and the police, but then he turns the tables and puts the ransom as a reward for their heads. That's the basic story, and it's a great twist on the kidnapping theme. Ron Howard, man, he killed it on this movie, man. Especially coming off of Apollo 13, this is him at his zenith. It was like a nice, from Backdraft to Far and Away to Apollo 13 to this film, all the way up to How the Grinch Stole Christmas and Beautiful Mind. He was just coming up with hit after hit after hit. And this was a masterclass by him, because he hit you with the drama, he hit you with a little slight comedy here and there wherever it needed to be. But it's very sparse here because it's such a dark subject. And actually, I believe this is one of his darker works, next to The Missing with Tommy Lee Jones in 2003. Now, it's like, if you ever see interviews with Ron Howard, or really seen a good number of his movies like The Parenthood, Splash, so on and so forth, there are a whole bunch of lighter, fair movies. And this is a pretty dark subject. But he pulls out the beginning of the movie with such grace, and it's just like, wow. You can tell that he was trying to show this family as like the American dream, the epitome of the American dream. Got the money, life is good, they're sitting on top of the world. And then this situation happens, they lose their kid, everything falls apart. Like, almost everything in the beginning feels like a beautiful fever dream, and then it's like, oh wait, reality just struck. And it's filmed so well as acted so well by cast. Mel Gibson is Tom Mullen, the multi-millionaire, and his wife Kate, played by Rene Russo. They really sell this American Pie nuclear family of present times. They really crack on the emotional beats. Everything that happens in this movie is dedicated on the way these two react to the situation. They are the core of this film, and they both work together beautifully. Rene Russo and Mel Gibson as these distraught parents. You understand their plight, and the way it's filmed, it is perfectly just symbolic of what's happening. As soon as the situation happens, the whole movie gets darker, really feels like a character in itself. This movie is written very well. I mean, and it takes most of the logical steps. I mean, especially if you're in that situation and you're in their position of power or whatnot. But of course, what do you do when you first believe your kid is kidnapped? You're going to call the police. So we get introduced to Detective Jimmy Shaker, played by Gary Sinise. But eventually feels like he's getting stonewalled by the detective. Something feels off about it, so eventually he calls in FBI, and that brings us to the FBI agent Delroy Lindo, Agent Lonnie Hawkins. And this is where the ball gets rolling, and it feels like it's going somewhere, but unfortunately all bureaucratic situations go down. This, that, and the other happens. There's one point where Kate Mullen goes off script and tries to pave the kidnappers herself, and then gets put in a situation the villain like whispers stuff to him. And it was actually very smart on the fact that, like, wow, you know, it's something I never really thought about. You can't identify a person by a whisper, and makes you think. You're like, oh yeah, you really can't tell who anybody is if they're just like, hey, what's up going on? The things you know, the things you learn. Yeah. Anyway, the story really goes by, you know, you feel like certain situations that happen, especially when they get their son back, it's like, wow, that's kind of like happenstance. But it's actually a believable happenstance of life, you know? And you're just like, oh yeah, that would actually make sense. And what Tom Mullen, Mel Gibson, does when this situation happens and turns tables on the kidnappers, it makes total sense. And you can see him doing that, especially since it's Mel Gibson. Mel Gibson has made a career on playing men pushed to the edge. You know, like Mad Max, Lethal Weapon. Those are both characters that are pushed to the brink, and they just gone over the cliff. And you're just like, I don't know if they can come back. And that's the great thing about this film, is the fact that, wow, you know what? It's not like an extreme like a Lethal Weapon or a Mad Max where you go into post-apocalypse, but this is an everyday father who basically goes to hell and back, and you're just like, wow. And this is a credit to Ron Howard as a director. You feel that tension. You feel for these characters and the way they're portrayed by their actors. And you're like, yeah, if I had the same situation, I probably would put a hit out on the kidnapper's head. Would try to turn the tables. I knew my son was safe and everything like that. It really makes you question, what would you do in that situation? And I believe that's just a great thing about this story. Anyway, the music is pretty good. It's tension filled when you need it, and it's heartwarming when it's necessary. And it just works really, really well. It's a good thriller. The cinematography looks great, and the action is realistic and heart-pounding. And the tension, oh my god, the tension of, is he alive? Is he not? Will he be alive? I mean, it is displayed very well in this film. Now, out of all those good things that I just said about this film, there is one problem with it, and that's the fact that for some reason it's not as memorable as like an Apollo 13, as a Backdraft, as a Splash, as a Beautiful Mind. For some reason it just doesn't have that staying power, yet it's a well-crafted film. So on that note, Ransom by Ron Howard, starring Mel Gibson, Rene Russo, and Gary Sinise. I give that movie a...
You had my curiosity, but now you have my attention.
Hey guys, I suggest you rent it, find it on Netflix if you can. I mean, it is a very good thriller, worth your time. So that is part one of this two-part review series, I guess you can call it. The next video will be part 2. I'm not going to tell you what it is. It's a surprise, obviously. So if you want to find out, like, comment, subscribe to Nerd With Me, and figure out where we're going with this Cinephiles and YouTubers. Check out our Facebook page as well. I mean, we have the link below, obviously. And I will catch you in the next video. Peace.